Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Tuesday, November 5th. Happy Election Day to all of you who celebrate. Hopefully, everybody got out there and got the vote out. Polls are closed now, by the way, so we will patiently await the determination on who will be the next president of the United States. We probably won't know until, I can't imagine, until Thursday at the latest. But in the meantime, we got trade deadline talk to get to. And I know that is the real reason why you're here. We also decided to go a little early for the sake of the polls because not the radio show polls, but of course, the polling situations and the election situation going on tonight. So we figured we better get ahead of that because that is going to be, understandably more important than what's going on here this evening. Though our primary function is as a sports show, so we will go ahead and dive into these things. Nando wants to know who I voted for. I'm not going to tell you who I voted for, nor do I care who you voted for, but I just care that you vote. I'm happy if you vote. I early voted. I did not mess with it today. Today sounded like a bit of a disaster, so I went and voted like 3 weeks ago. It was a total breeze. Hopefully it was as easy for you guys if you did, in fact, get out there and get it done. But with everything that's going on this evening, of course, the trade deadline came and went in the NFL. So we are going to react to the things that the Titans did, or more importantly, did not do. We'll also talk about who won the trade deadline among teams that traded for and traded away players at this point. A gone viral video is how we will sum this thing up together tonight. Before we get this thing started, need you guys to share the broadcast around on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. Wherever you are spending your time with us this evening, we appreciate your participation. If you're hanging out on Twitter, please retweet the show in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you're on Facebook Live, you can share. You can share now to public. That's in the bottom left. If you're on YouTube or on Twitch, you can get involved there. You can like the video. You can subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined, and tell a friend to do the same. By the way, the college football playoff rankings just came out, and right now it looks like Tennessee would be hosting Indiana, which is interesting. The 8-9 game, or rather the 8-9 game, Tennessee and Indiana right now as it's slotted in. Alabama would be, or Texas would be hosting Alabama. Notre Dame would be hosted by Penn State. That's also going on tonight. So very, very interesting to see. Before we get into the trade deadline stuff, so I just mentioned the college football playoff ranking or bracket is coming out right now. Right now the rankings are from top to bottom, the ones that they've released. Boise State at 12, Alabama at 11, Notre Dame at 10. Indiana at 9, Tennessee at 8, Penn State at 7, Texas at 6. You've got BYU. Well, no, this doesn't make sense. Okay, Boise State 12, Alabama 11, Notre Dame 10, BYU 9, Indiana 8, Tennessee 7, Penn State 6, Texas 5, Miami 4, and we are awaiting the first or the final 3 in for the college football playoff, though it's some combination likely of Oregon, Georgia, and Ohio State at this point. So that will be interesting to see how it goes. With everything that's going on tonight, we will do our best to keep it focused on the Titans trade deadline, which is why we are getting ahead of the election results, or at least the election coverage, because likely we will not have the results tonight for who is the next president of the United States. But we'll look forward to seeing how that all plays out. So, with everything that happened today, the Titans did nothing. The Titans did nothing at the trade deadline, though it was not for a lack of effort. Here is my understanding on how things went down. The Titans moved DeAndre Hopkins. That was their best asset for a team that was a contender. The Titans also traded away Ernest Jones to the Seattle Seahawks. They got back a 4th-round pick and Jerome Baker, which ended up being a solid deal because they traded a 5th-round pick to acquire Ernest Jones, a 5th and a 6th-round pick. They turned that 5th and 6th-round pick into Jerome Baker and a 4th-round pick. So that was a solid transaction, not the best transaction. The DeAndre Hopkins trade was for a conditional fifth-round pick. The conditions for it to become a fourth would be DeAndre Hopkins playing 60% of the snaps, which looks like he will be able to do so in the second half of the season. And also the Chiefs have to make a Super Bowl, which seems pretty likely, but the Ravens, the Steelers, the Bills will all have things to say about how that goes down, whether or not the Chiefs end up competing for a third straight Super Bowl at this point. Edward Hayford says Baker can't even get on the field. Yeah, but I don't really care about Baker. Like, Baker doesn't mean anything to me, right? Because Baker's an expiring contract. Like, maybe, okay, if he was good and he got out there and you decided you were going to extend him, great. I don't think they're probably extending either Ernest Jones or Jerome Baker because they gave Kenneth Murray a long-term deal or a multi-year deal, not a long-term deal. It's a 2-year deal for Kenneth Murray. So, like, Jerome Baker doesn't really matter in this. What matters is the draft pick that they got and that they turned a fifth and a sixth into a fourth. All right, that maths the way that you needed to ahead of the NFL draft. But the deadline day came and went without the Titans making a move, though there were teams calling about 3 Titans defenders that we'll talk about here together. The question that I'm going to ask you is this. What grade would you give the Titans trade deadline transaction? So while they did not do any deals specifically today, how would you assess their work on the whole around the NFL trade deadline on the trades that they made in season? How would you grade, or what grade would you give, A through F, the Titans at the trade deadline? It is your Two Rivers Ford take. As always, it is presented by the South's most trusted Ford dealer. That's Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. They'll put you in position to succeed. Quality American-made Ford vehicles, award-winning customer service, and over 4 decades getting it done for you as the customer. They always make the car buying process fast, easy, and fun. That's how they have done business. That's the right way to do business across those 4 decades here in Middle Tennessee. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. Talking trade deadline tonight with the 12-team college football playoff rankings. The first one is officially out, so I will refresh that for those of you who are just joining us. From 12 to 1, Boise State, Alabama, Notre Dame, Indiana, Tennessee, Penn State, Texas, Ohio State, BYU, Miami, and Georgia. Oregon is the number 1 team in the country right now. So that is how the 12-team college football playoff is currently slotted, which would mean that the Buck Rising Bowl, I'll take credit for that, is Indiana at Tennessee. If things were to stand pat right now, 7-1 Tennessee would host 9-0 Indiana at Neyland Stadium, which would also be the weekend of Titans Colts. So there's some symmetry there. That's in Indianapolis. So shit, if I honestly hope that stays the course, because if Tennessee hosts Indiana in a playoff game, then I could go to that Indiana playoff game because, of course, I am an Indiana alum, and then I could go cover the Titans and Colts the next day. Hopefully, if it's not a night game, that would be less than ideal. But still, that would be interesting. I hope that happens. That would be really, really cool. So that's the 12-team college playoff. Right now, we're grading the Titans deadline or trade acquisitions or trades away ahead of today's deadline. Guy Man, C-, a solid D for Don Gorecki. Is that how it's pronounced? Don, forgive me if I butchered it. Edward Hayford says, no grade. They did nothing. We got a hit on every pick in the upcoming draft. Well, no, that's not true. They traded DeAndre Hopkins, as I mentioned, for a conditional 5th-round pick. They traded Ernest Jones for Jerome Baker and a 4th-round pick. Those are the 2 trades in season that the Titans made ahead of the deadline. So that is not nothing. Those are trades of consequence because one is a 5th that could be a 4th, and one is a 4th straight up. Jeff Sawyer says a C+. For Clayton, I would have traded everything available. Well, that's worth honing in on here. So, what was available? So for sure, Arden Key, Sebastian Joseph Day, those 2 players were available. Jeffrey Simmons was a player that teams called about. Specifically, I know Minnesota called about Jeffrey Simmons, or was at least interested in inquiring about Jeffrey Simmons. Jeffrey Simmons was not somebody who the Titans are willing to trade right now. I don't think that's just because or just based on the idea that Jeff Simmons is like hallmark of the franchise, because I don't think, for the right price, I would definitely have moved Jeff this year. He's played a good game on Sunday, but he hasn't been at his best this season, and certainly you could stand to get cheaper or less expensive is probably the way that I should put it, given that you are going to have some interesting decisions to make this upcoming free agency specific to quarterback. Is something that I would keep an eye on if they try to buy one instead of drafting one, which, by the way, I'm in favor of. We'll talk about that more this offseason. Jeffrey Simmons, though, you wouldn't have gotten the best value for Jeff because he's not playing his best football this season on the whole, and he's also dealing with injuries, multiple injuries now, the elbow and whatever's going on with his right leg that was subduing him at different points in Sunday's win against the Patriots. So things were available, but nobody wanted them, right? Nobody wanted them really. Arden Key, they weren't going to trade Arden Key for a seventh. Sebastian Joseph Day, they weren't going to trade anything. They weren't going to trade him for a seventh, apparently, though I don't understand. Like, Key makes less sense to me than Sebastian Joseph Day because Sebastian Joseph Day is only here on a one-year deal. Michael Edwards says, was Boyd traded? No, nobody wanted him. Baron Davis says trading everything would open up more holes to the ones they already have to fill next year. Yeah, but you'd have to do that anyway, Baron. Like, that's, yes, you're correct. But like trading Arden Key would not have trading Arden Key, Sebastian Joseph Day, or Jeffrey Simmons would not have derailed you from doing what you need to do in this upcoming draft anyway, which is draft pass rush help. Those three, Sebastian Joseph Day is not the best pass rusher in the world. Jeff is not the best pass rusher in the world. And they're quality players, but Sebastian Joseph Day isn't going to be here anyway. Arden Key is here with this season and next season still left on his deal. He'll get a bit of a pay bump that makes him less appealing as a situational player, but that's what he is. You need to, I would make the argument. Honest to God, for three positions in the first round over quarterback this year. I would go edge, not in any particular order, but I would go wide receiver, edge, or tackle before I drafted a quarterback if I was the Titans, because I don't think these quarterbacks are worth a first-round pick at this particular point in time. I don't like any of them. Shador is the best of them, but even Shador I don't think is any surefire thing, and I don't think dropping Shador Sanders in here with all the other problems that you have on deck solves the problem. You need a wide receiver because Boyd is on a one-year deal. Ridley is 30, and Hopkins is gone. Treylon Burks will soon be gone. You have zero confidence about the right tackle situation. You also need a right guard. We'll see what they do with Radens this offseason. He's in a contract year, but you wouldn't spend a first-round pick on another guard. At least you shouldn't when there are needs at tackle. And this team has only drafted 2 first-round edge rushers in the history of the Titans, the 26 years of the Tennessee Titans. They have only drafted 2 players in the first round at the edge position. That is Javon Curse and Derek Morgan. Harold Landry was a second-round draft pick, though he probably could have been a first if he had been healthy in the draft process. So I think that there are multiple positions that I would take in the first round over a quarterback this year, and all of those things are going to have to be things that get filled in the offseason anyway. You didn't fix the Titans with what you did personnel-wise in 2024 this offseason. All you did was plug some holes with some very pricey free agents that needed to be plugged, by the way. Had to be done, but you still have plenty of things that you have to draft to get this team. I mean, the team is 2-6, and it's not Will Levis's fault. Will Levis hasn't played in 3 weeks. So some of it is Will Levis's fault, but like I said, they've got a million other problems beyond just the quarterback situation. Getting a rookie quarterback in here does not fix all the things that are wrong with the Titans. So how would I grade them? I'd grade them at a C. Would I have liked them to do more? Yes. Could they have done more? Probably not. But here's what I was hoping to see from Rain Carthon, okay? And specifically Rain Carthon, even though he's not the only person in that front office, obviously. I talked about this on the radio show today. I may have mentioned it last night briefly on primetime. The relationship element of Rand, the relationship building element of Rand, something that made him appealing. Beyond just he's a decent person to be around in the workplace, based on my understanding. I want that to matter more. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care how well he gets along with players. Like, that's great, but the general manager should probably have some level of separation between church and state, between GM and locker room. Anyway, John Robinson barely talked to these guys. Now, that doesn't make John right, but John is more the norm as opposed to Rand Carthon, who has very interpersonal relationships with these guys. And that's cool. That's all well and good. That can help you recruit free agents, especially if you're a shitty football team, and they are a shitty football team that was out there recruiting this offseason. And it took some selling, and Rand Carthon sold a bunch of guys. Now, it didn't work, but we'll see. We'll let this thing play out. But I want Rand Carthon's relationships around the league to matter more. Like, I want if you're going to tell me that this guy's superpower is relationship building, and I'm not pinning that on Rand. Rand's not out here touting his superpower, but other people that hired Rand Carthon are. Okay, that's fine. I want it to matter come trade deadline. I want you to pull off a deal that none of us think is possible. I want you to cash in on some of these relationships that you have league wide. I want to see you be a plus above and beyond what I know a good relationship guy to be. I want to see you get deals that other than your standard general manager, let's say, wouldn't be able to get done. Now, maybe that's asking too much because, again, somebody has to want what's on your roster, and nobody wanted what was on their roster bad enough for them to move these three players, Simmons, Key, or Sebastian Joseph Day. Again, I disagree entirely. Not moving Sebastian Joseph Day at all. I would have taken a seventh for him. I don't think it's that deep. He's a one-year deal player. That makes sense to me. But Rand Carthon, at some point during his tenure here, I want to see his relationship building quality league-wide turn into something that none of us would have expected, or to put them above and beyond what the level of expectation was. Maybe that's unrealistic by me, but I think if they're going to call it a superpower, then I want to see it be a legitimate superpower beyond, like I said today on the radio show, him and Calvin Ridley connected because they're both from South Florida. That's cool. Him and Jarvis Brownlee connected because they're from South Florida. That's cool. I think that matters. I think representation for the players matters in that way. Somebody who has lived their experience, somebody who played in the NFL, somebody who comes from similar places or backgrounds that they come from. All of that is cool. But again, I want to see that. I want to see more. I want to see more than that, because right now, the best thing that Rand Carthon has done since he landed here is draft J.C. Latham. But that's not enough to justify how bad the product is moving forward. If you want time to see your vision of this thing play itself out, you got to do more. If you're Rand Carthon, truly, you have to do more. All right, who won the deadline today? Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Let me know which team around the NFL you think did the best job at the NFL trade deadline. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. In the comment section is how you get involved there. Let me know how you feel about it, and we'll talk about it amongst ourselves right after I remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by the wonderful people at TrueMav Fitness in the Gulch. Go to TrueMavFitness.com. Get your first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident. No workout ever recycled or repeated. TrueMav Fitness is your guiding light to your fitness journey. All kinds of different ways to work out also is what they offer you. It is not just the best coaching staff. It is the different ways that they tailor it to make sense for you. TrueMavFitness.com for your first workout free. Primetime also made possible by the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. Don't sell without the intel edge that Gary Ashton can provide to you at GaryAshton.com. Who won the deadline? Let me know in the comments section. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. Bustin' Diamond says Lions. Carrie B says the Steelers with a couple of transactions. Clayton is going with KC, who acquired DeAndre Hopkins from the Titans, of course, famously. He had a big night last night that we'll get to when we get to Gone Viral for the Chiefs. They also acquired Josh Uche, the pass rusher from the Patriots. Jeff Sawyer says the Commies, Lions. We already read that one, or some version of that one. Johnson, R. Johnson, says they got it for a conditional fifth-round pick, and we ate $2.5 million on the DeAndre Hopkins deal. That's where things stand right now. So who won the deadline, though, at this point? How are we feeling about the teams that were jockeying for position to try and keep pace in the AFC and the NFC? There's a couple of different teams that you could look at. Probably the biggest acquisition of the day, or of the deadline deals, was Zadarius Smith, because Zadarius Smith is somebody who is going to help the Lions pass rush in the absence of Aiden Hutchinson, and that was something that Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network was detailing today on their network.
He is going to record a sack or multiple sacks at some point down the stretch in the playoffs, and we're going to go, yep, that's why. I want to talk about the other side of this, though, because obviously the Cleveland Browns season has not gone as they wanted. Deshaun Watson now out for the season with a torn Achilles. The wins have certainly not come. They've done a really nice job of saying, all right, who's going to be here and who is not? And if you have someone like, let's say, Amari Cooper, we can trade him for a third-round pick He wasn't a part of our future anyway. Deal him, start to collect assets. So Darius Smith they really liked, and I do think the Browns were fine keeping him, but it's like, you know what? If we can get a fifth and change for a guy who may not be here next year, who would help a contender, you know what? Let's do that. So I think for the Browns, it's not something you want to do as a general manager or as an organization, but sometimes you just have to say, you know what? We're going to focus on the future, give up a little bit now. I think the Browns did a really nice job of that.
So that is rap sheet detailing the Zadarius Smith trade. Other transactions that were made include the Commies trading a third-round pick for Marshawn Lattimore, the talented Saints corner. You had the Bengals trading a seventh-round pick for Khalil Herbert to help their running back depth after Zach Moss went down. You had the Steelers trading for Preston Smith from the Green Bay Packers, one of their talented edge players, as well as adding Mike Williams from the New York Jets, a player who was on a one-year deal there because the Steelers feel like they need wide receiver help. And Mike Williams had kind of fallen, I don't want to say outright out of favor, but he was definitely not getting the volume that Lazard or Devontae Adams would get because Aaron Rodgers just simply trusts them more, knows them more, and is having an easier time going to them on a regular basis. So the Cardinals also added the pass rusher Baron Browning, I believe is the linebacker's name from the Denver Broncos. That was a smaller deal, but the Cardinals are, hanging on tenuously at 4-4 to first place in the NFC West. So they're trying to make a run at this thing. They're trying to make the playoffs in their second year under Jonathan Gannon. So there's a couple of different ways that you could look at this, but I would go with the Commies. Marshawn Lattimore is a quality player. The Commanders at 7-2 have Super Bowl aspirations, not just to win the NFC East this year. And they will win the NFC East this year because the Cowboys just put Dak on IR. The Giants are a disaster. The Eagles are starting to figure it out, starting to play better football, and also having Devontae Smith back in the lineup. I know A.J. Brown was back in the lineup and is now out of the lineup, though it sounds like he got some positive MRI results on a knee situation that knocked him out of their most recent game. This is something that for the Commies, they are absolutely in the driver's seat. They can compete for the top overall seed in the NFC realistically this year. The NFC is wide open, and I think the Commanders adding a quality player for that defense, for a Dan Quinn defense, no less, with Jaden Daniels playing at the rate that he's playing, makes the most sense. I would consider the Commanders to be the biggest winner at the deadline. Gone Viral is what we will do coming up next before we turn you over to the college football playoff rankings show and the election results. No matter who you voted for, I just hope that you voted today or early voted the way that I did. Early voting, I always pro early voting, 100%. It was a breeze, and I think you can. I wonder if you guys know the answer to this, because my girlfriend went to vote today, and she went to one voting location that that apparently she had to go to a specific voting location based on what was on her voter registration card. I did not have to, but I don't know if that's just because I early voted versus her going today on election day. But I didn't have the answer to that question. I wasn't sure if that was the case. Either way, Gone Viral. The question that I have for you is this: which Titans player or former Titans player succeeding do you enjoy watching the most? Is it Derrick Henry with the Ravens? Is it DeAndre Hopkins with the Chiefs? Or is it A.J. Brown with the Eagles? It probably all hurts you more than it makes you feel good, but is there a former Titans player that you root for in their new location? Let me know on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. We'll talk about it together right after I remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by Zen Sports. Zen Sports is the place for you to get in on the action, and it's never too early to start thinking about the big game, by the way, since we're talking about contenders. This November, Zen Sports, the new sportsbook in Tennessee, has launched a brand new sweepstakes for all its Tennessee customers. The Big Game Sweepstakes, where you could win a grand prize of 2 tickets to Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans or $10,000 cash. And what's more is Zen Sports will also award 50 additional prizes, which include 2 tickets to any Tennessee sporting event or $100 cash. If you want in on the action, you can earn multiple entries every day just by betting on the Zen Sports app. For every bet you place, you will earn 1 entry, and for every dollar you bet, you earn an additional entry. Like parlays, earn double the entries on every parlay placed. So sign up at Zen Sports where betting just got better. Gambling problem, call 1-800-889-9789. No danger first wager, limited to plus 500 odds to qualify. Terms and conditions do apply at zensports.com/sweepstakes for contest terms and conditions. Must be 21 plus and in the state of Tennessee to bet at Zen Sports. All right. Which former Titans player do you want to see succeed in their new home? Bustin says King Henry, especially if he goes for another 2K. B. French says, let's go Chiefs and Ravens. Johnson says Henry. Fade says Malik Willis with the Green Bay Packers. That's a good submission. It's cool to see Malik succeeding that way. Chiefs, but only for fantasy purposes, says B. Birds on Twitch. Edward Hayford says, I'm in Baltimore. All they glaze on is Derrick Henry. They used to with Lamar. Well, they should, because Derrick is excellent. And it's great for Lamar to just be the best quarterback on the roster and no longer have to be the best running back on the roster as well. Angelica James says she roots for DeAndre Hopkins and the Kansas City Chiefs as a former Titan in a new home. I thought that Hop was great last night. He was great last night. 8 catches, 86 yards, 2 touchdowns. A really nice contested catch that only Patrick Mahomes could make that pass to DeAndre Hopkins. But D-Hop on his first touchdown reception paid a little tribute to the Tennessee Titans.
Protection, back of the end zone, Hopkins. Got him there and got him in. Here's Hopkins here. He just comes up and then he comes across, and you're going to see then Kelsey as he drags across the front of the goal line. It puts the linebacker in a real tough position. Actually, I think it was Antoine.
So that is DeAndre Hopkins hitting the Remember the Titans celebration against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in a game that the Chiefs survived in overtime, helped by DeAndre Hopkins with 2 touchdown receptions there, especially the last one in regulation for the Chiefs. It's cool to see D-Hop succeeding, but I'm in favor of Derrick Henry because, well, it's cool now that I get to root for both of them. Well, I guess I can root for all 3 of them if I wanted to, AJ, Derrick, and DeAndre Hopkins, and I do root for all 3 of them personally. They were all great here to cover while I was here. They no longer play for the team that I cover, so I can actively root for them. I would like to see all 3 of them succeed. AJ has played in a Super Bowl. Derrick has not played in a Super Bowl. Hop has not even played in a conference championship game. So for Hop, I guess it matters the most because he's the oldest of the 3 of them. And he is on the team that will probably give him it will give him the best chance to compete for the Super Bowl in Kansas City. But to see Derrick doing what he's doing for the Ravens is badass. Like every time I see Derrick, every time I get a chance to catch a Ravens game, I don't see them very often live, obviously, because I'm covering games on Sunday. But anytime that Derrick and the Ravens have been in prime time, like it's cool to see him take off and to be able to stand up and like cheer for it now. That's real. It's really, really cool. Especially since it's been a while since he's been able to do that. And this, by efficiency, is the most successful season that he's had, including the 2020 season where he rushed for over 2,000 yards and became only the 8th player in NFL history to do that. If he does it this year with the Ravens, he would be the only player in the history of the sport to do it twice. All right. That is going to do it for us tonight. Have a great evening. The election, I hope that you all stay kind to whomever you talk to whomever you speak to whomever you text or call or message or tweet. Be kind on the internet no matter who wins. Again, I don't care who you vote for. I just care that you voted because that is our civic duty and our right as Americans, and it's really cool to be able to do that. So I hope nobody takes that for granted and everybody got out to vote for their respective candidates today. Have a great evening, and I don't know if we'll find out who's president tomorrow, but I know we'll be on the radio show tomorrow talking about these college football playoff rankings, the 12-team playoff out for the first iteration. It would be curious to see. I think Indiana is a better team than Tennessee, but that will be a discussion that we have tomorrow. See you guys then, 10 a.m. on 104.5 The Zone.
Go home! Go home! Go home! You're embarrassing Nashville! Go home!